Completes 11 of 20 passes for 209 yards, a touchdown, and an interception.
Yeah.
But the defense was the story. And it was so funny. When this game started, Jason Garrett said, "Are the Raiders playing the University of Miami?"
Right? I know. It did look like that with them running out of the tunnel. It certainly did with the white helmet.
Incredible game of defense on both sides, their team, our team. The numbers are, whatever, they're next to nothing. And we had opportunities to make big plays, and we didn't hit them. QB was under duress the entire time, and so our ability to match up with their pass rush didn't work out well. And so I'm really disappointed that we weren't able to find the plays that could have given us the field change and the switch so that you have a chance to knock one in.
You won't believe this actually happened. Pete Carroll just dropped the kind of brutally honest reaction that had Raiders fans sweating, Shedeur Sanders supporters celebrating, and the entire NFL looking around like, who told this man he could talk like that? One rookie gets his first start, and suddenly the league turns into a full-blown drama series. So what did Shedeur Sanders do to make a legendary coach give a reaction like that?
Shedeur's life significantly easier, and that's a throw that I don't know if anyone else on the roster can make. And this is what we've talked about with Shedeur Sanders. That's the ability he has. He is an incredibly talented passer. I really like the pass to Fannin, just simple, but under pressure and those type of things. And the Dylan Sampson one, it's like relatively an easy throw, but here's the problem. We go back 2 weeks to the Jets game.
This twist is way wilder than anyone expected. Shedeur Sanders walked into his first NFL start with a calm confidence, like someone who already knew the internet had the memes loaded, the critics typing, and the pressure waiting to crash down on him. He faced it like a linebacker who hasn't eaten since midweek, ready to devour anything in front of him. And after all the chaos, the hits, the sacks, the broken plays, and a stadium shaking like a microwave full of metal, the biggest shock of the night wasn't even something Shedeur did. It was the words that flew out of Pete Carroll's mouth afterward. Because when a legendary coach walks up to the podium looking like he just watched his entire retirement plan crash in real time, you know something unfiltered is coming next. And Pete Carroll didn't hold back, not even for a second. But before that now viral moment, we have to rewind to the second Shedeur walked off the field after finishing the game. You could see it written all over his face. He knew exactly what he just survived. He knew how many people were quietly hoping he would fall apart, so they could go home and write long comments from their couches with perfect Wi-Fi and absolutely zero NFL experience. You could practically see the thought on his face. And they still didn't get what they wanted. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Even with everything going sideways, Shedeur delivered the kind of I refuse to fold performance that's going to show up in highlight videos titled something like, "They counted him out," and he flipped the whole script. It all started with the offensive line. And when I say offensive, I mean offensive to every principle of protection in football history. Offensive to human logic. Offensive to anybody who believes in basic stability. 10 sacks, double digits. That's not a stat. That's an insurance claim. That's the kind of number that makes offensive line coaches stare at the ceiling wondering where their career went wrong. But here's the craziest part.
From him in his first start, I wanted to make sure that he wasn't taking sacks. He wasn't just backing up if he didn't really have a clear idea of where the ball was supposed to go. He was throwing the ball away instead of taking sacks. He was making some of those off-schedule plays as he's rolling out of the pocket. And I thought he did all of those things in spades. He stayed calm. He hit big plays down the field. And so he showed significant growth from what we saw not only in college and preseason, but what we saw 2 weeks ago against the Ravens. He opened up this offense to be able to push the ball down the field to give us some of those easy completions.
Even inside that disaster zone, while defenders were flying at him like they were upset about a parking ticket, Shedeur still escaped and delivered the biggest play of the night. When everything blew up around him, he spun out, rolled back, dodged 2 defenders, stepped past another one who looked like an extra in a zombie movie, and launched a pass that dropped in like it was guided. And just like that, the entire energy of the game flipped. That throw was the type of moment where a coach on the sideline goes from "oh no" to "hold up."
Expert opinion, and I've been a part of the Cleveland Browns organization. I played in the NFL. My brother played in the NFL. Shady played in the NFL. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. That came from ownership. That came from Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, walking downstairs saying, hold on a second, why didn't you name a starter? Shedeur just won. We haven't won since October 19th. Name Shedeur Sanders the starter. Remember, Jimmy Haslam was non-committal. Kevin Stefanski was non-committal last night to starting Shedeur. So how do you go from being non-committal to waking up and all you've been on is a flight, to waking up the very next day and being like, yeah, Shedeur's a starter. Hell no.
To wait, this kid is unreal. That's exactly what Pete Carroll saw. It was the look of a man who realized the rookie he tried to break all night didn't break at all. Meanwhile, Raiders fans were bouncing between hope, panic, confusion, and checking their blood pressure like it was part of the broadcast. Speaking of pressure, the referees suddenly decided this game was their big moment. They threw flags like they were giving out freebies at a festival. Everybody got one. They didn't even pause. Some drives didn't start with a snap. They started with yellow flags falling from the sky like a bargain bin parade. Pete Carroll already knew this officiating crew called the most penalties in the league, but even he looked stunned. Like, really? Tonight? This is what you chose to do? Every time the ball left the quarterback's hand, the crowd held its breath like they were waiting to scream at the next weird bounce or wild penalty. Those plays could have flipped the whole night on its head. They could have changed the energy in one snap. But football doesn't care about feelings. It can be cold, and instead of magic, we got a full trilogy of heartbreaks. And then came the question everyone expected. The one about the rookies. Because let's be real, when your quarterback gets sacked more than a grocery bag at checkout, the public is going to start asking tough questions.
Shedeur Sanders, shout out to my boy, got his first official start, man. Got the dub over the Raiders yesterday, 24-10. Yes. Shedeur had 209, a TD, had an INT as well. But the first Browns QB to win his first start since 1999.
Damn.
They've been horrible for a long time, bro.
That's a long time, bro.
26 years, bro.
The energy just felt different from the team.
The vibes was high.
Like, you see Myles Garrett and them smiling and stuff.
He ain't want my boy to shine.
Rolling out the pocket, say he ain't mobile. Bomb.
Why not try the rookies? Fans kept shouting. But Pete Carroll wasn't playing along. He basically said with this calm but frustrated tone that the rookies weren't ready yet and that practice film matters more than desperation. Translation? We've tried everything, trust me. You just don't see the footage. And the way he said it felt like he wanted the whole league to understand the kind of chaos he's dealing with. Then came the injury parade. Ankles everywhere. Center, guard, tight end. Players limping like they had just run a marathon on gravel. At one point, it looked like the Raiders roster was being held together by athletic tape, adrenaline, and speeches from whoever still had energy to talk. But then came the moment. The question that everyone wanted to hear, Pete Carroll's evaluation of Shedeur Sanders. Pete leaned into that microphone with the energy of a man who had lived a full season in one night. He looked like someone who had survived enough madness to write a memoir on the flight home. And then he dropped the most brutally honest breakdown of a rookie start you'll ever hear without someone putting it in official quotes. But then someone brought up the bigger picture, the record, 2-9. The reality that this season might be showing they're way further behind than expected.
Easy stuff. And so I think you got everything you wanted from Shedeur Sanders in this game. And I'm so excited. I'm sure they're going to name him the starter this week because there's no reason to go back to Dylan Gabriel because you're getting what you want from Shedeur. You're seeing that growth, that progress. And I think if he continues to grow at that level, there's going to be a really hard decision if he's your franchise guy at the end of the season or if you want to use those 2 first-round picks on it.
Pete Carroll looked like a man who had just been asked to list every mistake he's ever made. But he didn't fold. He locked in. Work, grind, fight. He talked like someone who refuses to bow down even when the football gods put the difficulty setting on expert mode. And then, as if the honesty meter wasn't already maxed out, he started talking about execution. And let's be real, when someone asks a coach about execution after a game like this, you know a sarcastic answer is warming up backstage. Pete handled it with the kind of humor only a veteran coach can pull off. Execution? Oh, they need it. In massive amounts. Immediately. On every single assignment. Because what they put on that field was not it. But in the middle of all the frustration, the disappointment, the ankle injuries, the penalties, the missed deep shots, the broken protections, and the decisions he'd probably love a do-over on.
Came from the owner of the Cleveland Browns saying, if you don't start Shedeur, you going to have to leave. You going to have to get going. So to me, that was a upstairs decision. Now, shout out to Kevin Stefanski for doing what he was told. But he didn't have no choice but to do it.
What I was going to say at the beginning of this show was free at last. Free at last. Shedeur Sanders is free at last.
Thank God Almighty.
My goodness. Thank God Almighty. He's free at last.
Pete Carroll still held on to one undeniable truth. Shedeur Sanders showed something real. Something special. And that's why the entire football world is buzzing today. Not because the Raiders melted down. Not because the offensive line had an identity crisis. Not because the referees acted like they were auditioning for TV, but because Shedeur Sanders displayed the exact thing every rookie quarterback wants to show in a debut: resilience. Most rookies crumble after 1 sack. After 5 sacks, they're rattled. After 10 sacks, they're checking their phone like, is there another sport I can try? But Shedeur didn't break. He kept swinging. He kept finding plays out of thin air. He kept believing he could punch through all the madness swirling around him. And that is exactly why Pete Carroll had no choice but to be brutally honest.
Show more than anything is them BS narratives and tropes about that man's intelligence, about that man's moxie, about his ability to lead men, about his ability to understand and think the game. You running around out here talking about he couldn't get in and out of the huddle. I saw him get in and out of that huddle and manage the game beautifully today. What I saw today, I saw people gravitating to him. I saw people, when there was an opportunity to fold up, I saw people rallying around. Big time throws on the run, get hit, jersey all stained up. You have 2 seats.
The wild part is that Shedeur Sanders probably walked off the field thinking he could have done even more. He left plays out there, real plays, that could have been touchdowns if the protection wasn't collapsing like a broken fold-up chair. And truthfully, he might be right. Because if you watch closely, the opportunities were hidden under all that chaos, but they were still sitting there waiting to be hit. That's what makes this entire story so unreal. He didn't play some flawless highlight reel masterpiece. He didn't dominate the box score. He wasn't chilling in perfect pockets picking apart defenders like a veteran. He battled through actual adversity, heavy, non-stop pressure, and still made the one play that flipped the night on its head. And while fans argue online, analysts debate every snap, and Pete Carroll looks like a man questioning his entire protection philosophy, Shedeur just keeps proving something he's been saying since day one. He's not going to fail just because people want him to fail. That's exactly why this performance hit so hard. It wasn't about stats or fantasy numbers or some perfect script. It was about pure resilience. So now the real questions start flying. What happens next? Does the team finally fix the protection issues? Do the penalties settle down? Do the rookies start rotating in? Does Pete Carroll's truth session lead to some uncomfortable film room silence?
Fan, this was not a surprise at all what he did tonight. To me, I'm gonna just keep it 100 with y'all right here, right now. They sabotaged them a little bit in this one. Shedeur really was supposed to have 3 touchdowns this game. Y'all do understand that, right? On everything that he was given, bro. This was Shedeur talking.
A lot of people want to see me fail, and
definitely did.
That ain't gonna happen.
Does Shedeur actually get real blocking before week 17? Right now, nobody knows. But one thing is clear. Shedeur's first start wasn't just solid. It was a warning shot, a message to the league, a preview of what he can do when he's not dodging defenders the entire night like he's in a live obstacle course. And if he looked this calm while taking 10 sacks, imagine what happens when the offensive line gives him just 3 seconds of breathing room. That's when things get scary for opposing defenses. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something real. And the funniest part? While Pete Carroll was giving one of the most transparent coaching breakdowns we've heard in years, Shedeur was somewhere replaying that one perfect throw in his mind like it was already a moment from a future championship run. That single pass wasn't just a highlight, it was an announcement. It was the kind of announcement rookies dream about making, the kind that makes defensive coordinators sit in their offices staring at the film, drinking coffee they suddenly don't enjoy anymore. Because here's the truth the league doesn't want to admit. If a rookie can survive a 10-sack baptism and still throw the game-winning ball with swagger, calm, and zero fear, that rookie is dangerous.
Browns rookie to win his initial start since Eric Zaire in 1995 under Bill Belichick when the Ravens were the Browns. And I know, Browns fans don't
Can't we just keep it like they're the Browns?
The Ravens were the Browns. The Ravens were the Browns.
But the Browns were the Browns, though.
The Browns
so
is the Browns. But the Browns were the Browns yesterday. The Browns didn't exist for 3 years because that team moved out of town and changed.
That rookie might become the kind of quarterback who forces every defensive meeting to start with a slide that says, "How is this kid still standing?" Because Shedeur Sanders is showing signs of becoming that type of nightmare problem coaches don't want to deal with. But Pete Carroll's brutal honesty didn't stop at praising Shedeur's toughness. He went straight into the long list of everything that blew up around him. And when Pete Carroll breaks down a game, he does it like a dad calling a family meeting because someone broke the TV and everybody's pretending they didn't see anything. He lays it all out. Then came the injuries. Tight end hobbling. Rookies unavailable. Players shuffling in and out like the world's most painful version of musical chairs. Except every time the music stopped, somebody limped off the field. That's the thing with Pete. When he regrets something, he doesn't sugarcoat it. He sits there like someone who bought a used car without checking the engine. Then found out the engine was running on borrowed hope and prayer. And he owned it too, because even he knew the whole momentum died the second that one big play didn't happen.
And get out of there. Unfortunately, the penalties were, this is a crew that calls the most penalties in the NFL, and they hit right on their head, right, their number that they always call. And we knew that. We had a strategy about it. We were trying to stay out of their targets, you know, their sight lines, and we didn't get it done. And so we endured a number of penalties, but there was a couple really big ones that really made a difference in the game and changed the field position drastically. So I know y'all want to know, like, where does it go with the quarterback versus the pass rush and all that? Well, we have to protect the quarterback a whole lot better than we did.
But even with all the mistakes, all the injuries, all the confusion, and all the full-blown chaos, Pete still came back to Shedeur Sanders. Because despite everything collapsing around him, the rookie didn't fold. He didn't crack. He didn't panic. He didn't turn into an interception machine like many first-time starters do under extreme pressure. Instead, he created the one moment that mattered most, and that's what stuck with people. And then came the locker room reaction. That competitive fire he showed, that's the stuff that separates rookies from rising stars. You can't teach that. You can't coach it. You can't program it. Players either have it or they don't, and Shedeur Sanders has it in every throw, every scramble, every adjustment, every time the protection collapses and he refuses to let the play die with it. Now picture this. Just imagine what happens when he finally gets real protection. When the offensive line stops looking like spinning doors at an office building. When the receivers hit their spots clean. When the play calling finds a rhythm. When injuries stop stacking up like giant store receipts. Imagine when everything finally clicks around him. If he can stay that calm in a night full of chaos, imagine how dangerous he becomes when the game finally slows down for him.
He picked out the 4 throws that I really liked from that game. Let's start with the Isaiah Bond one, because he did the thing we've been waiting for a Browns quarterback to do all season. He went deep. He took advantage of Isaiah Bond. That's something we've been waiting to see from Isaiah Bond. And in Sanders' case, the biggest thing he did was he beat the blitz. And it completely changed the dynamic of the football game because the Raiders just stopped sending all that pressure as soon as they made that completion. It set the tone for the game.
When he starts controlling defenses instead of reacting to broken protection. When he enters each week knowing the structure around him isn't improv, but real stable football. And here's the side effect nobody is talking about. Pete Carroll's honesty didn't just expose the problems, it accidentally exposed the potential. Because if Shedeur Sanders was the bright spot in the storm, imagine how bright he'll shine in clear weather. The injuries might keep popping up. The penalties might keep showing up like annoying pop-up ads. The offensive line might still need a spiritual upgrade. But the franchise now has something it didn't have before this start. A real spark. So yes, Pete Carroll was brutally honest. Painfully honest. Even hilariously honest at times. But tucked inside all that frustration was something bigger. Belief. Because he saw what the rest of the league eventually had to accept. Shedeur Sanders didn't just survive his first NFL start, he arrived. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.